Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast where we talk about real Canadian rugby. I'm Stu Hardy, joined once again by Jeff Robinson. Jeff, it's been a month since the last round of the Sevens World Championship, and we'll get onto that particular tidbit later, but we have had the first of our European leg, the second round overall in Spain. And yeah, it was a pretty decent showing by women in red and white. I'll begin with the pool stage games. Canada was in a pool with Spain, Great Britain, and France. And it went exactly the way that we wanted to go, beginning with a 35-5 win over the host Spain, a 21-12 win over Great Britain, and finishing off with a 24-7 win over France. This put them into the quarterfinals for the Cup, the last game on Saturday, which they won with a 40-5 win over Japan, confirming that Canada would be finishing in the top four of this tournament, which is exactly where they need to be. Unfortunately, Sunday did not provide the same results as Friday and Saturday. It was a narrow loss to the old enemy, the USA, 14-12. And then finally, up against the Black Ferns or the Silver Ferns, I'm not entirely sure which one. New Zealand women's sevens team. I think Canada put all their eggs into the basket for the United States, and it was a pretty big blowout loss, 50-14 to New Zealand. So Canada finished fourth overall, and looking at the table for the Sevens World Championship, Canada have now amassed enough points that they cannot finish lower than 8th in the rankings, which means they will be playing in Sevens Division 1 next season, which is, the big thing that we've all been hoping that they can achieve. But they do have another final round, this time in Bordeaux in France. That'll be taking place this week, and you'll be able to watch those games on TSN+. And we've had a bit of news come out today because they've had the roster announcement. A few changes going on. Now, as you know, some of the players currently contracted to PWR teams in England, and there was an agreement prior to the final two Sevens tournaments in Europe that Olivia Apps and Alicia Corrigan, they will return to their Premiership Women's Rugby clubs, Saracens, for the final regular season match before the playoffs. As we spoke to Sophie de Goody, they have got a confirmed home semi-final, so obviously they want to be in the best possible shape for that. Piper Logan, unfortunately, suffered an injury in Spain, and she's been ruled out of the French tournament. But we do have reinforcements coming in. Fancy Bermudez, Pamphlet Boisa, and Chloe Daniels will join the roster for the final 7 soiree this year. But yeah, I think mission accomplished. Don't you agree, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm thrilled about the result, even if it's not a first or second place finish in this tournament. They've done what they need to do, especially in what's considered a rebuilding restart of the cycle year.
Mm-hmm.
Securing top 8 finish to stay in Sevens 1 for next season is what should have been the goal. Now the goal will be to move up that ladder and get ready for the next World Cup or Olympics. That's what the goal is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that has been like the main objective, or the necessary objective, I should say, for this tournament, this World Championship, is that we needed to see Canada continuing to, even if they're maybe not like the number one team in the world, or they're not going to win the World Championship. I'm thinking Australia have pretty much put their rubber stamp for the entire season so far, that they're the ones who should be getting the gold at the end. But ultimately, staying in Sevens Division 1, being in the top tier, and having that high-level competition for next season should definitely be a great sign for players involved. As we know, players will make commitments during this off-season, and obviously have opportunities with 15 teams, as we've seen with Olivia Apps and Alicia Corrigan returning to Saracens before the conclusion of this championship. So, options are available, and keen to see where they're going. Bringing new talent in and giving them the opportunity to test their mettle on the world stage. I
Yeah,
think
I would say let's not forget the first two stops on this tour this year didn't really go that well for Canada, and
no,
we said back then this is that restart of the cycle. So I think it's been overall a fairly successful season for them.
yeah, I'd agree. But that's another topic I want to talk about is that the season overall, and I think it's been highlighted by the World Championship 3 rounds, is that we are now having 2 rounds which are back to back because they're in Europe. But prior to this, the first round, which was in Hong Kong, was a month ago.
Mhm.
And it's very hard for fan investment to be able to be sustained when you have such drastic times between the tournaments. And I think this is something that Sevens as an organization or in the planning stages for next year really need to nail down. We know that there'll be the first couple rounds of Sevens will be at the tail end of 2026. And I think that'll be the round in Dubai and the round in Cape Town, which is, always established as just before the festive season. But I think we need to be having similar things to like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off. So you can have a sustained level of fan retention for these kind of things. I know it's easy for me to sit behind a microphone and just say that and hope it magically gets done. There's obviously huge logistics involved, and I'm sure that the boffins at World Rugby are currently sorting out what the best tournament structure will be for the 2027 season. But, it's just really difficult if you're trying to build casual fan engagement and say, like, hey, we have our World Championship. The first round is this week, and the next round is a month away, and then the third round is the weekend after the second round. It's very perplexing.
Here's another question for you. Would you prefer a 3-day tournament or 2-day tournament?
I'm actually liking the 3-day tournament for the World Championship, and I think the 2-day tournament for Division 1 works out pretty well. I think it's easier for people to be like, okay, Division 1, that's where we get to like basically find the rankings of what the top 8 teams are going to be prior to the World Championship. And then we now know there's the jeopardy of 4 other teams vying for those 8 spots in Division 1 for the next year. So that's got the added thrill of it altogether. So, I think it's been a good balance this year. I also like the fact that they haven't suddenly changed the requirements for Sevens between the tournament in Spain and the tournament in France. So I think that's a marked improvement. But yeah, I think if you save like the big tournament for the championship round, and if you can even get people involved by saying like, oh, this is as close to like as Olympic Sevens as you can get, and the only reason why it's not a 6-day tournament is because we're doing the men's and women's concurrently. So
Yeah.
yeah, what are your thoughts?
If the same city is hosting at the same time, the men and women's together, I don't mind a 3-day tournament. But if it's just like example, just the women's going to Bordeaux for that stop, it should be a 2-day. I think it's easier on the fans too, like that. I mean, Saturday the pool game, Sunday the knockout stages. I've always liked sevens how it was more that compact, like that. Not trying to stretch it out and then that kind of stretches it too thin. If that makes sense, like that. Because then the families are gonna go who are gonna go for the weekend now have to go for an extra day. It's and for logistics for the fans. Not all the fans live in that city. They're gonna drive in. They're gonna fly in like that. Extra hotel costs. I think like you're just kind of killing the golden goose, so to speak. I think. I
I
think it's
do
better
think
to keep it that
I do
way.
think there's an argument to be made of maybe having these matches in like smaller stadia. So
Yeah.
instead of having in the 50,000 or 60,000 seater stadiums and then having a low attendance, is like
Yeah.
having them in a 10,000 seater stadium and hopefully getting that party atmosphere going. That
15 or
sevens.
20,000 would be excellent.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
pretty good. And obviously, you have to work it out because most of these stadiums will be used by other teams, whether that's rugby teams or soccer teams or any kind of team that can field a pitch of that size. You need to negotiate it ahead of time because actually something I found out is that in England, the FA states that if there's a ground share with teams of a different sport, is that the football team or the soccer team have to have priority of fixtures
Yeah.
on that ground. So if there's a instance of we need to wait until this team gives us the go ahead to do it, I can obviously understand there's those logistics issues as well. But yeah, and having it for 2 days is definitely easier for a lot of fans. But at the same time, I'm like, it's the World Championship. Maybe we can have an extra day for this tournament, as a treat. But that's my opinion. And as we said, the final round for this will be taking place in Bordeaux, in France. And those games will be available for you to watch in Canada on TSN+. And we have interesting development just before the final tournament is that the Sevens Player of the Year nominees have been announced, including the Men's and Women's Sevens Player of the Year and the Men's and Women's Rookie Player of the Year. And for the Women's Sevens Rookie of the Year, we have Kennedy Stevenson is one of the nominees, the only Canadian representative. So congratulations, Kennedy. And I guess we'll find out when you win. Obviously, you may be a little biased on this upcoming weekend, but we wish you all the best and congratulations on being nominated at the very least. Some news back home. We have had a press release from the Canadian University Men's Rugby Championship. Today, the CUMRC received word that men's rugby 15s was not selected as a USPORTS pilot sport at this time. While we are disappointed, we are incredibly proud of the application we brought forward and grateful for the feedback we received, recognizing the strength of our established championship. With close to 40 universities competing in men's university rugby across Canada, 34 competing for a berth at the McTavish Cup, and a player pool of well over 1,500 student athletes, this sport has never been stronger. To our coaches, athletic departments, alumni, and sponsors who have been part of this championship, your support and dedication to men's university rugby means everything to us. We will continue to work alongside you to grow the game and elevate the McTavish Cup. And reminder that the 2026 McTavish Cup is coming to Langley, BC, November 17th to 21st, hosted by Trinity Western University. And the CUMRC signs off with, "We are not done, the best is still ahead." So, disappointing that men's 15s is still not recognized by USports, but it seems as though the application received feedback. Hopefully that can be taken on board. And we can keep plowing ahead, keep trying to get men's 15s the recognition that it deserves and the association with USports to help grow rugby as a viable option at university level across Canada. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
Was it first obviously disappointing? I haven't had a chance to read that article, but was any feedback, like reason given for why they were not selected? I know they said they gave feedback, but was any of it commented on or announced? Where were there deficiencies in their application, I guess?
So this release came from CUMRC on their Instagram account about 5 hours ago. So they've only said that they were grateful for the feedback. They haven't specified what it is. I'm sure if we wait enough time that word through the grapevine will come out, and I'm not sure if any outlet has an update on it as of yet, so we'll just have to keep our nose to the grindstone and see what comes about.
And my other thoughts are, it kind of goes to what Maria Sampson said in our last podcast is like bums in seat matter in this regard too. And we need to, like, for going back to the national team, sell out in Edmonton, good solid crowd in Winnipeg, and for the women's test in Ontario, hopefully sell out those two stadiums. And that will give a message too to these kind of groups that rugby is a viable sport. And I do understand the university part is there's only so much money to go around. But hopefully more can be redirected to not just men's rugby to make it fully varsity in all universities, but also the women's deserve their share too.
Yeah.
Make sure they get their fair share as well.
Yeah, it's it's not a stop sign, it's a giveaway sign. That's how I look at it. You gotta
Yield,
just
slow
wait.
down, merge.
Yeah, wait until it's the right opportunity to merge in, and hopefully that day will come sooner than later, but we still have to wait. And we have had some going-ons with MLR and some of the Canadian prospects going on there. Jeff, you have an update on how the Canadians have been doing so far as we are reaching towards the end of the MLR season?
Yeah, I believe there's one more week left in the regular season, and in the latest Team of the Week, 3 Canucks made it. I believe it was Kelly Martinez, Mason Flesh, and I believe Lucas Rumball was the third. Yes, I believe. Hopefully, I got all 3 of those correct. I do know Flesh has had an amazing season. Really, I hope that he can get noticed in Europe. He deserves his shot in Europe, in the Pro D2 or Top 14 or URC English Premiership. He's dominated really MLR, I thought, this season. Well, I believe mostly at lock, but also at 6. My gosh, I'm drawing a blank here, but the Seattle Canuck lock, he's featured many times on the Team of the Week. Same with Cortez as a hooker. Not as many back, other than Webster, has made a lot of appearances on that Team of the Week. So the few Canucks that are in MLR, they've done well. If MLR is around next season, which I'm not 100% sure yet, or if they somehow even manage to add some teams, not detract. I mean, hopefully that brings back a few Canadians back to MLR if they're in a strong position, hopefully. I mean, the league, not the play.
Yeah. As you said, it's a hoping game at this point. Just to point out for those that are unaware, Chicago Hounds, California Legion, and Seattle Seawolves all confirmed they have made the playoffs, which leaves New England, Old Glory, and Anthem to vie for the final spot. New England and Old Glory on 17 points apiece, Anthem on 13. Interestingly, California and Seattle, only 3 points difference between them. And guess who's playing in the last game? California and Seattle. So that'll definitely be an interesting fixture. Chicago looking to go for a clean season of 10 wins, and I believe 10 bonus point wins. Overly currently on 45 points.
I think they confirmed their playoff spot in about week 3.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, this is the thing. They're the squad with the most Canadians on, and they seem to be doing pretty well. I mean, we've said it a number of times. If you want to win, you gotta have Canadians on your squad. That's just how it goes. You know, it's science. It's how it works.
Here's another question I have for you. I was debating this with another person on Twitter earlier in the week. It's a 6-team league this year. Should the top team have had an automatic bye to the final, and only the 2-3 play a playoff game? I can understand it in both ways, because like 4 teams out of 6 making the playoffs comes across as a bit.
It's a bit naff. I will admit that, but I also acknowledge that MLR throughout its history, even in its first season with 7 teams, which you know is pretty similar to 6. Mathematically, it's a bit easier to understand, but that was a 4-team playoff as well. So I'm like, okay, if we're gonna have playoffs for that instead of just one championship game, I'm okay with having two playoff semi-finals and then the championship final. My approach is that it's more rugby. There's an extra if you can have the second and third team play each other and they go on to face the top performing team in the championship, that's all well and good, but I like rugby and I like watching more rugby, and having a second semi-final, also it's just the opportunity to have an upset, I think is really good. I'm sure if there is an upset against Chicago fans will say, oh, I much prefer if it had been a bye to the championship, but considering how well Chicago have played this year, I think they can put another game in and get that. I know it's an already pre-planned final location, but having a home final, I think will be a massive windfall to the Hounds if they can make it.
Well, I mean, I do understand it from a marketing, financial, TV rights deal having two semifinals. Like, I understand it from there. It still just looks a bit awkward on. It's not your first year in the league. Like the league's first year. It's after what? Like how many years now? Is it 7 or 8 seasons? You're at this point. It's just in some ways it looks a little bad too. Yeah.
To be honest, I think losing 5 teams in the off season is a pretty bad look. But
well, it was worse for sure. But,
yeah. So yeah, I can understand where people are coming from this if they preferred one match playoff and then the final. But I'm okay with 2 semis and then the final. Yeah. All right, speaking of multiple games going on, BC Bears, they've been doing the hosting duties for a number of games going on. The men had a series against the Ontario Blues. And, I was just talking about Chicago wanting to have a home advantage for their final. It seems as though having home advantage for BC has done wonders for them. In their 2-game series against Ontario, Game 1, BC 36, Ontario 14. And in Game 2, BC 32, Ontario 7. With the Bears taking home the Canada Cup. So congratulations to all the players involved from both BC and Ontario to have this competition go on. And in the women's game, BC have hosted the Alberta Wolfpack. And, that home advantage definitely playing dividends. BC 39, Alberta 5. So BC in all their games scoring over 30 points and keeping their opposition pretty low scored. Obviously, the first game against Ontario with only 14 is the only blip. But yeah, a good opportunity. I heard that Steve Meehan was at the BC Ontario series, keeping an eye out on potential players to be called up for the long list for the Nations Cup, whenever that will be announced. We are, of course, now in June, so we are a month away from the first game of the Nations Cup. And yeah, every opportunity for guys to play and stick their hands up and say, hey, I'm available, I'm good at this, pick me. I think that's a great chance for them. But Jeff, what did you make of these results?
I watched the Crimson Tide Ontario game too. I missed about the first half of the last BC Ontario game for some issues regarding YouTube links and stuff like that. But it was an interesting game. I have heard that it wasn't possibly the strongest Ontario team they could have sent out, especially in the backs.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was probably a legitimate concern for a variety of reasons, jobs and cost, which is always a unfortunate part of our game here in Canada. What I thought the most part was, especially in the first game, Ontario did not manage to convert pressure into points. They had a very solid 20-25 minutes, and then kind of the switch flipped like that, and BC just took over. Generally, I thought in the set pieces, especially the line out, BC for the most part dominated. broken play, Ontario did a bit better at the ruck, and the rucks were competitive in both games. Players who I thought that really did well, both Gallagher and Webb, I thought did well at 9. Pryor had a very strong time at 1. The Carson brother, that was a lock for BC. He really did well. I could see the hype about the Carson brothers, and it's a shame they never got more professional time earlier. I know the scrum half Carson was with sevens. The backs, McMullen, center, I thought did pretty well too. I'm trying to remember Bowen, I think on the wing for BC did pretty well. I think Ontario, I thought Teenery, for being out for so long, he did reasonably well at tight head, for the most part in Ontario. But I said the breakdown was pretty competitive. I think it was the BC number 8 was called the player of the tournament. I believe he was voted the player of the tournament at the end. So I guess he stood out too. Yeah. But for the most part, they're competitive matches, especially in the first half. And then Ontario, I guess, 3 games in 8 days is all.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to turn around, especially when you're playing on a few time zones away from what you're used to. So, but I gotta give them credit where it's due. They showed up. They actually came out and were able to have all these matches, as well as I think it's been like some scrimmages as well, and high intensity turnaround and stuff. And obviously, as Maria was telling us, is that when she was playing in the World Cup, and it was just like so many games so quickly, and just not being able to eat enough to replenish everything, is that it can take a toll on you, as she mentioned. So no, I fully get it. I fully understand. But you can only play who's in front of you, and I appreciate that Ontario were able to get the players that they could and bring them out and have a tournament altogether. So that's a great showing. So, unfortunately, as we said, that series has concluded. And if you want to watch any rugby this coming weekend, boy, do we have a smorgasbord for you. As we mentioned, the final round of sevens, the Canada games, will be available on TSN+. But on Premier Sports, we have the final round of MLR regular season games. We also have the Super Rugby Pacific qualifying finals and the Japanese League One third place final and grand final, all available on Premier Sports. If you want to catch the final round of the Prem regular season, that is available on Sportsnet. The URC finals are available on UNC.tv. And as we mentioned before, the final round of the Premiership Women's Rugby regular season is available to catch the highlights on YouTube. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out more, as well as our written pieces on our website at therougerugby.ca. You can also find us on Spotify and on YouTube. We're also available across social media, including Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky, all at The Rouge Rugby. Jeff, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on X at WP Rugby Jeff.
And you can find me across social media at Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, that's where we're going to end this episode. Jeff, thank you for joining me, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Rouge Rugby Podcast, where we talk about real Canadian rugby. We hope you can join us again next time.